Hello everyone, Sableye here and welcome back to the channel. This past weekend were the Vancouver Regional Championships and I managed to finish second place overall out of 309 participants. So basically today we're going to be going over the team I used, a team report basically, and most of the matchups that I played. The video may get a little bit long, so feel free to tab out and leave the audio in the back or skip around. All the timestamps of the key important parts will be down in the description. With that, I say we jump into things here. You guys can see the team on the screen at the moment. You do see the Corviknight there. That was kind of, I guess, my niche pick of the weekend. But we'll go into the evolution, how exactly I ended up with a Corviknight on my team. And I guess we'll get started. So version 1 of the team here, you guys can kind of see at the bottom. We'll go over this relatively quickly. I don't think there's a lot to talk about at how I ended up at this point, but version 1 of the team here, you guys can see on the screen right at the bottom there. It's a team I used 3 weeks ago, question mark, somewhere in that timeline, at a local event, and I just loved Fluttermane King Gambit. Like, the concept of Fluttermane King Gambit was really, really fun to me. It seemed like a team that fit my playstyle, and on this team I had Booster Energy Fluttermane, Focus Sash on the bundle, Clear Amulet, Grey Tusk, stuff like that. And then my Brute Bonnet was my Dondozo answer. And what happened here was I actually won the local that I used it at. Came first. Got a little lucky in finals versus the Dondozo, but I did end up getting first, and that was cool. That same weekend, Colin Higher was at, I believe it was OCIC, and they had used 5 of the 6 same Pokemon, but a little bit of a different variant with Choice Specs Fluttermane, Booster Bundle, and Sash Tusk, along with Mousehold. And I thought that was also a super, super cool concept. And so I went from there, right? And I kind of said to myself, okay, what does Mousehold do for the team? And Mousehold was basically redirection and allowing the team to do what the rest of the team needed to do, right? And I didn't love Mousehold. I'm not a huge fan of Mousehold in this format. I think it's very good, just doesn't really necessarily fit my playstyle. So what I decided to do was, well, if Mousehold is here to basically kind of be a glue, tank hits, and allow everything else to tank hits, Intimidate can kind of help the same concept. So I threw an Arcanine on, switched things over to Specs Fluttermane, because I'm like, I need the damage output if I'm going up against Dozo. So I go Specs Fluttermane, have an Arcanine there. The Intimidate allows Fluttermane to live without necessarily needing Protect. Cool, all is that. Billion other changes in between. I've tried a few other things on here, nothing too crazy. Like, guys can see, I even dropped Arcanine for a Rotom at one point. Then I was super lost. I was like, yo, what if Palafin? That also didn't work. And then I said to myself, hold up. These are the 5 Mons. These 5 Mons work. We're rocking with this. This is what's going on. And then I was in a call with Olivia. They were on the channel a few weeks ago with their Flare Gambit run team report in Knoxville. That video will be down below as well. And then I was in a call and we were like, let's just throw stuff at a dartboard until something sticks, sort of thing. And we somehow ended up on Corviknight. And all I'm going to say, one of the best decisions I think we've ever come up with. And super happy that I brought Corviknight to the event. And full team, guys, is on the screen as you can see right now. Also will be in the description down below. We'll start with the Fluttermane because it's kind of the heart and soul of the team, sort of thing. It's where the team started at, you know? So for Fluttermane, I basically said I wanted to hit 204. And I took the 204 speed because I wanted to outpace Lycanroc outside of Sand. I've noticed that when I originally had my initial team, my Fluttermane was slower than Lycanroc. And I didn't like that. It wasn't so bad because I could always protect my Fluttermane in front of the Lycanroc T-Tars. But now that I lost the ability to protect, I opted for 204 speed to hit 181 to outpace the Lycanrocs. And I would move on from there. That was kind of my first, that was what I wanted to hit. That was my speed stat. That's what I needed. Everything else, I don't remember exactly what the 84-100 was for. I remember it being important. But I'm going to be honest with you guys, I do not remember. 116 special attack was for a very specific matchups that I actually ended up playing in top 8, which I think is kind of funny. So very happy that actually paid off. The Terra Grass 116 special attack Energy Ball was specifically for the whole Psych Up Dondozo stuff. We'll get into that when I get into that matchup. But everything else, spread just kind of works. Energy Ball, of course, that I just mentioned was for those Dondozos, was for those Palafins. And just the Terra Grass just allowed me to have that defensive pivot into something like the Jet Punch, into that Wave Crash, even into like Headlong Rush from like Great Tusk. That actually came in handy a few times as well. So Grass was a solid choice for Fluttermane. I don't know if it's the best on Fluttermane, but I definitely think it was probably one of the best for this team. We'll move over onto King Gambit right now. And for the longest time with my King Gambits, I was running 196 attack investment. And, you know, it was solid, you know, but I always felt like there was always a scare that I was going to be missing the KO on going like Iron Head into Sucker Punch into Iron Bundle. And I didn't want that to happen anymore. Because when King Gambit comes, it has to be able to deal with Fluttermane Bundle effectively. Because that's one of the main things I'm bringing it into. And I need to be able to deal with that effectively. So I had to put a little bit more attack into the King Gambit just to make sure that the Iron Head into Sucker Punch would be picking up the knockout more often. I believe now with this, it's a 93% chance to get the KO every time. And I mean, if I missed a 7% chance, like if the 7% chance happens, it is what it is at that point. It wasn't guaranteed when I put it at 252 attack anyways, so I said, where's the highest I can get with a sweet spot? So that's what the 220's for. 220 HP, 60 special defense, just solid. It's but what I've been running all format with my AV King Gambits. Nothing too crazy there. 4 speed, 4 defense, just because I absolutely refuse to run spreads that are just 3 stats if they're not 252. Like if they're 252, it's fine, it's whatever, it can be in 3 stats, but I think spreading the stat line like that, just it's something I've always done and it's something I enjoy doing. So whether or not it was relevant, it is what it is. It also allows me to outpace no investment King Gambits with low kick for the kill, because somehow King Gambit ended up being my opposing King Gambit answer. I don't know how that became the case. I do have a Great Tusk, of course, but it's not always as simple, especially if they are the Terra Flying option. So move over onto Iron Bundle now. Iron Bundle, guys, this is your standard Iron Bundle. There is nothing crazy to talk about. I go fast, go burr, click Icy Wind, speed control for my team, hit Freeze Dry, hopefully hit Hydro Pumps, and nothing too crazy. I am Terra Ghost just for the whole fake out scenario. It also allows me to pivot around Perish pretty well, because then I can lead something like Fluttermane Iron Bundle and not have to worry about getting trapped at all. Don't think that came into play too much, but it's nice for fake outs, nice for stuff like that. Other than that, pretty standard Iron Bundle, I think. I don't think there's anything too crazy going on here. We'll move on to Arcanine now. Arcanine, probably one of the more thought out EV spreads, and honestly, it's just really, it just feels like a really solid piece, you know? And I started with this Arcanine and I said I have to outpace Great Tusk. Well, first of all, it started as a slow Arcanine. It started as a super slow, super bulky Arcanine. Eventually adapted into this, and I said it's important to outpace Great Tusk. I can burn it before it can do anything. You know, it just felt right to outpace the Tusk, you know? So, anyways, made that adaptation. Jumping over to 196 speed, like I said, that is for the outpacing of the Great Tusk. Nothing completely wild on that one. The HP and the special defense investment are to live -1 expanding Life Orb expanding force from Armarouge when they're at -1 twice after Citrus Berry recovery. I believe it's a 1% chance to actually get the knockout, which once again, it's one of those things. I'm not going to invest more. I'm not going to invest like 16 to 24 more EVs to change a 1% to a 0%. It just felt like a little bit of a waste to me. So I'm like, you know what? If they get the double high roll into me, good for them. Chances are they're going to have like Helping Hand on D&D anyways. But that was kind of the point that I was at. You know, I wanted to make sure I was living those Indeedee Armarouge stuffs, because that's where Arcanine, one of the areas Arcanine excels on this team, is I can just kind of safely lead it into Indeedee Armarouge. I have my Snarl option. It's a bulky enough mon to tank hits, and it can get me out of Trick Room as well with Protects. So really good mon. That's kind of what that was for. Then I kind of separated the attack into defense a little bit. I put it into the defense because now at -1, I have it from the Great Tusk. I actually have a decent chance of surviving. I don't remember the exact percentage, but I do know I have a decent chance of surviving the Great Tusk, Headlong Rush if they're at -1. And since I'm outpacing, being able to get a couple attacks off in front of it would be really, really nice. Not having to worry about straight up dying. Of course, there's workarounds. They could just go Terra Ground, but... And then I just dumped the rest into attack because there was no reason not to have attack. Like, Flare Blitz hits hard, but it's not like, oh my goodness, you know? It's not like, oh my goodness, we're doing 62 million% damage with this Flare Blitz. It still hits hard because it is stab. It is still 120 base power. You can't, like, discount it, but, like, didn't need the attack investment too much for anything. We'll go over to Great Tusk now. Guys, standard Great Tusk. Headlong Rush, Close Combat, Earthquake, Protect. Absolutely nothing wild, nothing out of the ordinary here. Just went with what was good, right? Like, Focus Sash just allows Great Tusk to be a threat, you know? It's a mon I kept in the back more often than not. There are certain matchups I lead it in, but more often than not, I keep it in the back, deal with some threats, and then bring in Great Tusk and go crazy, right? I was tempted for Ice Spinner because, like, generally on teams with, like, Flutter Gambit, you see a lot of Dragonites and you see a lot of Ice Spinner to clear terrain. I opted for Earthquake. I felt Earthquake was still just more optimal. And there was actually a different tech that I was considering on Corviknight as well, which we'll get into in 2 seconds, to help stop terrain. Obviously didn't go for it because you guys can see the set on the screen right now, but I was actually considering Defog on my Corviknight. For those of you who do not know, Defog clears hazards, so it would actually help versus stuff like the Glamora stuff. When the Toxic Spikes goes up, it would clear those. It would also clear terrain. So in front of Indeedee Armor Rouge, the thought process was I could clear the terrain, lead it beside like Arcanine Corviknight, and not have to worry anymore about the terrain being on the field. Probably would switch in something like Fluttermane to tank an Armor Cannon a little bit better, maybe just even just click Terra Dragon at that point and just sit on the field. Obviously opted against it. Didn't feel like it was going to be doing enough in that matchup because then I'd be bringing Arcanine Corviknight and they'd still have an Armor Rouge. Like, I'd clear the terrain, but I wouldn't get anything out of it, you know? Like, I wouldn't get an ability to click priority. I wouldn't get an ability. I wouldn't gain any positioning, really. So I opted against it. I do think Defog is an interesting tech, but that's besides the point. Opted for Brave Bird, Bulk Up, Roost, and Tailwind here. And the concept of Corviknight on this team was basically I still wanted the passive Tailwind that Dragonite provided, but I also wanted to be able to switch in to Fluttermanes, to the Iron Bundles without really taking massive damage. I also have a really cool play where I can bring in Corviknight if I expect an Icy Wind and slow down their own bundle because of that, allowing my bundle to outpace, which is really, really cool. And if they're Sash bundle, it allows my Fluttermane, my Arcanine, and my Great Tusk to outpace them if I catch them with the whole Mirror Armor Icy Wind thing. So that's a really cool play as well. But it also just gave me the option to have flying type coverage without stab. You know? Sorry, without clicking Terra. My bad. Stab flying type coverage without clicking Terra, right? I didn't need to... With the Dragonite, it was really hogging my Terra, right? Like, if I was bringing Dragonite, I almost had to Terra. And I didn't like that concept of the team, right? Because if you look at my team, I want to Terra my Great Tusk. I want to Terra my Arcanine. I want to Terra King Gambit. I want to Terra Fluttermane. I couldn't have something that was hogging the Terra type in the Dragonite in that slot. It just wasn't working for the team. So Corviknight gave me that added bonus, and I don't think Corviknight is like, oh my goodness, it's the best meta call ever. But I do think Corviknight on this team specifically fit exactly what I needed it to do, and it actually put in a lot of work this weekend. So we'll quickly talk about matchups. Once again, rental code's up there. It's also in the description, guys, if you haven't seen it by now. But quickly, we're going to go over some matchups. Dondozo is a very interesting matchup. I'm inclined to say it's probably 50-50, and it's going to come down to who plays better. Generally speaking, I did beat all 4 Dondozos I played this weekend, so that's pretty solid, I would say. But definitely could have gone either way in those matchups. I don't want to say, like, I don't think I was, like, decimating people all weekend, right? Like, I think almost every single matchup was really close and really could have come down to the wire either way. But overall, Dondozo is pretty straightforward. You want to leverage your Fluttermane, you want to leverage your bundle, and you want to leverage your Great Tusk, actually. And then the last one is depending on, do you feel like you need Arcanine or do you feel like you need King Gambit? Corviknight generally doesn't come unless they really can't touch Corviknight. Like, That's what I noticed in top 8. We'll get into that later. But I noticed in top 8 that Zach really couldn't touch my Corviknight all that well, so it did come in that matchup, right? But basically, the common Dondozo matchup is leverage your two things that deal damage into it. And I would almost not lead either of them, right? Because by leading something like King Gambit plus Great Tusk, I'm almost saying bring your Dondozo onto the field, right? And then when they bring their Dondozo onto the field and they trap themselves on the field with Dondozo, then I can kind of start cycling in my Flutter Mane. It does live the +2 Earthquake, by the way, from Dondozo. Then I can bring in my Iron Bundle, and then I just put on pressure. If they don't have Terra Steel or defensive Terra, you can go Terra Grass. Energy Ball, it does like 70% on average, I would say, to Dondozo's, which is really, really solid. It's what part of what it's there for, but it's really, really nice overall. That would be Dondozo, nothing too crazy there. You can make a case for Arcanine, go Terra Water, try to burn it. Completely fair, start cycling Intimidates and just chip it down. My success generally comes from bringing something like King Gambit, Great Tusk with Flutter Mane and Bundle though, but to each their own. And I mean, there's room to play with it, and I think that's what makes the matchup a little bit easier, is that I'm not locked into bringing these 4 and only these 4, let's just say. I can always play around and have adaptations in game 2 or game 3. And I think that's one of the highlights of the team. Because for me, I wanted a team that just had a chance, would give me a chance. The team does require a large amount of brain power to play. Like, you need to be on your game and you need to be able to think not just for 1 turn, but 2, 3 turns ahead at times as well. It's not a team that's going to get piloted. Like Dondozo, right? Like, you very clearly with Dondozo have many positive matchups. And you probably have a few bad ones, right? But like with Dondozo, you have positive matchups, right? So you try to get those positive matchups. With this team, I would say maybe 5% of the time you're gonna end up here with a good matchup, right? Everything else just feels super neutral, and then maybe the other end of the scale is 5% of the time you're gonna end up with like, oh my goodness, this is almost unwinnable. But everything just feels so neutral with this team. Like, I was going over my preparation doc, and I was like, okay, this matchup, it's neutral. This matchup, also neutral. This matchup, feel good if I can just play it well, you know? Just everything about this team seems so strong that, like, there's really no downside to it, sort of thing, you know? Like, yeah, there's a few bad matchups, but, like, still winnable. Like, they're bad matchups, but I have lines into them that can pull me out of those bad matchups. But I will talk quickly about what the Corviknight comes to, because my big thing this weekend was it comes to exactly a match and a half. And the matchup and a half that it comes to is Talon Tusk T-Tar. Corviknight just sits in front of that. It basically forces them. And this is where the half part of that matchup comes in. Corviknight is one of those Pokemon that you're going to end up seeing how it worked in top 4 if you watch the set versus Aaron. But basically, concept is, I want you to kill Corviknight. But if you don't kill Corviknight, Corviknight's going to punish you. And that's exactly what I wanted in the top 4 set. We'll get into that later, and it's a perfect example of what I mean. But basically, the concept is, against Talon Tusk, they want to stop me from matching their Tailwind. So maybe they'll taunt, but then I can just Brave Bird. Right? It does involve a little bit of making reads right, like whether or not do I really want to get Tailwind up. Oftentimes, I didn't click Tailwind at all. I'll be honest with you. I think I clicked Tailwind maybe twice all weekend. And it's just one of those ones where I don't necessarily need to click it, but my opponent needs to respect it. Roost I clicked a lot just because I would use Corviknight as a switch in, eat some hits. If I was going to die, maybe I'd try to get a Tailwind up or something. Maybe try to get a Bulk up or a Brave Bird off before I did. And then I would die. But the thing is, if they're hitting down Corviknight, Specs Flutter Mane, Iron Bundle, Great Tusk, King Gambit, big hitters in this format are just launching attacks into their opponents. And generally speaking, you're not going to be able to one-shot this Corviknight. It's very difficult to take down in one hit. So if you're doubling up Corviknight, something else on your team is more than likely taking 75% and putting me in a little bit of a better position. Because Corviknight is not going to win me the game straight up unless I can get some kills for it first. So if I lead Corviknight and you kill Corviknight, it's a win. It's give or take, right? Because like sometimes you do want Corviknight, you do want to keep it around. It is still a good mon. I'm not saying I let it die all the time, but it does come into play where you just kind of say, okay, pick one. Pick my Corviknight. that's going to set up and eventually kill you, or pick my big damage dealer that is just going to kill you right now. And sometimes it's an impossible decision for your opponent to make. And just overall, super consistent team, it feels like. I feel like this team has like a lot of potential into everything, as I was saying. So it just felt good, you know, and it's kind of fit my playstyle super well. We'll go over here now. We'll go into let's talk about some of the matches I went through. Round 1, I actually ended up playing, so get this, I went across the country. I flew across the country to play a local player, someone I literally could play at a local event. And I did play at a local event 3 weeks ago, which I think was just really funny. It really sucks as well, because that means one of us was going to be starting 0-1. So it was just really unfortunate, but you guys can't see the team because I am not that smart. Now you guys can see the team on the screen. The Terra types I don't actually remember, but we're just going to leave the 6 up here, just probably the best way I had to lay it out. It was Trick Room. It was not the easiest of Trick Rooms, but it wasn't the hardest of Trick Rooms because there was no Armor Rouge. Torkoal, however, still made it a little bit difficult. I got a little lucky in game 1. I got a nice little Iron Head flinch, but I do feel that I had the matchup relatively under control. But it was definitely a good set. Managed to stop Trick Room in game 1 because of the flinch, which was nice. And in game 2, just went pretty straightforward, went pretty much as I planned it, and like I said, managed to get the W. Nothing too crazy going on here. Just a Trick Room team that we managed to take down. Round 2, I played Hiroki, who I've actually learned was a Vancouver local, or lives in Vancouver now, which is kind of cool. So another Canadian. But Dondozo. So Dondozo number 1 of the day. And the scary part about this was the fact that it was Choice Scarf Iron Moth, which I think actually allowed it to be a little easier at the same time rather than Booster Energy, because I could safely launch Sucker Punches into it. I noticed very early on in this game, or in game 1 I guess I should say, that after I Icy Winded the Iron Moth, my Great Tusk was actually faster. So despite the Iron Moth being scarfed, it was not, once it was at -1, it was actually built really bulky. But because it was built bulky, my Great Tusk outpaced it when it was back to neutral instead of the Scarf boost. And that actually came into play in game 3, where I managed to pivot that and take down the Moth before it was able to do any damage. Now, I did get a Draco Meteor dodge. Was it a Draco Meteor dodge? I got something in game 3. A little bit of luck, but I remember saying that it didn't really matter, because if they got the attack off or whatever the element happened, if it happened any other way, I still had the game pinned in the end game. So I don't think it mattered all that much, but once again, it was actually a really good set. Took it to 3 games. Just once again, a really close set. And like that's going to be the theme of this. It's just going to be close sets, right? And we're going to move on to round 3 here. We played Matt Tid, and Matt is a friend of mine, fellow Canadian, super cool dude, crazy team builder, by the way. Matt's teams are always wild, and I absolutely love seeing Matt do super well at this regional as well. So, anyways, Iron Treads, Gyarados, Hydreigon, Armor Rouge, Amoonguss, Iron Hands. So game 1, I made a really kind of a dumb play. I was like, oh, he's not going to lead Armor Rouge Amoonguss in front of Safety Goggles Corviknight Great Tusk. So I'm like, I'm not going to lead that. Let's just say he led that, and I got absolutely slaughtered game 1. Game 2, I decided to say, you know what? Corviknight Great Tusk is just my play into this. It covers the Amoonguss Armor Rouge stuff. Matt makes a good adjustment with the Iron Hands this time. That's fine, though, because I was able to bulk up, and it was just a really good set. I got out of game 2 with the W. Game 3, I should have protected my Great Tusk. It would have given me an extra turn to get out of Trick Room. I was making a call that Matt was gonna read the fact that I was gonna protect my Great Tusk. I got it wrong. Really good set. Matt moves on to 3-0. I fall down to 2-1. Really cool team from Matt, by the way. Just seeing Iron Treads, Hydreigon, and Gyarados all on the same team. It's like those are 3 mons you don't expect to see, and all 3 of them on one team was just absolutely wild. Really cool team. Round 4, I decided to say, hey, you know what? We're going to go play another Canadian now. So we're going to get 4 straight Canadians here. Now I get it. Like, we're in Canada, right? But I still don't think... I'm still inclined to think there were probably more Americans than there were Canadians. But maybe it was closer than I think. Either way, we're going to play Sean. And Sean had pretty much... I don't want to say a standard balanced team. But it's it's pretty standardish, right? Like nothing too crazy here. Just a good set, just back and forth kind of know your lines kind of thing. Nothing too crazy here. I don't want to spend too much time on the Swiss rounds. So like I know it might seem like I'm just kind of talking for no reason, but just kind of hovering over, highlighting some matchup key points. Nothing too crazy happened here. I don't even remember what I led, to be honest with you. Like this one's all pretty much a blur. I just remember it being a pretty decent set. I did take the set in 2, but really once again a few reads here or there could have really modified anything the other way. So nothing too crazy there. Round 5 I played Talon Tusk, and this is where I said, all right, it is Corviknight's time to shine. Corviknight did indeed shine. The Terrifier Sylveon made it a little bit more annoying for Corviknight to shine fully, but overall Corviknight kind of just sat on the field and did its job. I remember taking game 1 and game 2. I remember getting to a spot where I had lost my. I missed an Icy Wind into getting crit by Freeze Dry, but the crit Freeze Dry came after Iron Bundle had lost the speed tie versus their Iron Bundle. So it was like 3 things in a row in game 2 that cost me that game. But thankfully I was able to recover and not let it affect me. Get to game 3, take the W anyways. But once again, really close set. Could have gone either way. Adam was also a really cool dude to talk to during the set too. So it was really had a pleasure playing him. And just once again, good set. And after round 5, we're sitting at 4-1. And 4-1, very solid record, but still a long way to go. Now I play Bouchon, and if anybody doesn't recognize the name, this is indeed Freezeye. Shoutouts to Freezeye channel description. Channel will be down below. Definitely go check them out. But yeah, I also was rooming with Freezeye. So little awkward here. Little bit awkward here, right? Because you never want to play the people you're friends with, right? Like you want to save like the matchups versus friends. Hopefully they never happen, or if they do happen, they happen a little later after you've both like have solidified a spot in Top Cut or are actually already in Top, right? You never want to play a friend, right? But this team is terrifying. I will be honest. Once again, I need to play almost perfectly into Dondozo, and thankfully I got a little bit lucky with them forgetting about the fact that I still had King Gambit in the back in game 1. I got them to Hatsugiri to lock into Icy Wind. Managed to pull that game 1 off. Game 2 was pretty much just as close, if not closer. Managed to somehow get the leverage there. I don't remember full details of the set just because I played too many rounds of Pokemon to remember exactly every little detail. But remember knocking down Dondozo and actually saving my Fluttermane as well. So when then Palmok came in the back, I was able to get the Dazzling Gleam, and I was able to Terra Ghost my Iron Bundle in front of the Palmok to prevent the Revival Blessing in game 2. But realistically, once again, could have gone either way. Absolutely insane set. Managed to win. That was round 6, so now we're 5-1. We are now 5-1. We are 2 wins away from moving forward. And now we play Donald. And Donald over here had a really cool team. Once again, I don't remember the Terra typings all that much, but I do remember Baxcalibur being Terra Water. Now, I was a little bit scared of Indeedee Armarouge, I'm going to be honest with you guys. So I led my Arcanine Great Tusk. And what I found out immediately in game 1 was that my Arcanine and Great Tusk were both faster than Mousehold. And what this allowed me to do with the Terra type Water on his Baxcalibur was it basically allowed me simply leverage and bully the redirection so that Fluttermane in the endgame just dealt with Baxcalibur. There was no priority. It was Swords Dance. It was a Swords Dance set. It was Swords Dance Protect, Icicle Crash, and Glaive Rush, I think. So what that allowed me to do was basically because there was no priority, I could easily just say, I'm going to keep Fluttermane in the back. I'll let it sit there, no problem whatsoever. It can set up all it wants as long as I kill everything around it, and Fluttermane can clear it in the endgame. Baxcalibur is just gone. And for the most part, that's kind of how the game played out. I think in one of the games, I actually got the kills off onto it before I even needed Fluttermane. So it was just a really good set. I'm surprised they didn't go for the Indeedee Armarouge mode. But once again, because their mouse hold was slower than Arcanine and Tusk, I was capable of just leading Arcanine and Tusk pretty safely into this matchup. It felt pretty comfortable. Indeedee Armarouge would have made it a little bit more awkward. Would have forced a few more calls out of it. Would have made things a little bit more difficult. But once again, pretty standard set. Felt pretty good going into this one and managed to get the W in 2. Nothing too crazy. Donald's a good player, of course, so Was happy to get that one. Round 8, winning in time. And look at this. We're going to see another Baxcalibur. And guess what? We're going to see another Baxcalibur without priority. And when Baxcalibur doesn't have priority, once again, I feel safe because I'm like, ooh, Fluttermane can once again just chill, sit around, and we're good. Now, this Baxcalibur it wanted to be Razor Claw Focus Energy, which was a really cool tech. I think it actually works because they have the Vivillon, right? When you have the support for Baxcalibur, I think it's a really cool mod to try and get set up off onto it, right? Because a lot of the times you have the AV Baxcaliburs, like you saw on Aaron's top 4 team, right? And you have those priority moves, right? But once you can set it up, you don't really necessarily need the priority moves, right? You had the Tailwind on Vivillon, you had the Rage Powder on Vivillon, right? So you could actually, in theory, they could have gone for something like Rage Powder setup, and then if Vivillon was still alive, they could go Tailwind, and now they have a Baxcalibur that's probably almost critting every single time, dropping, you know what I mean? It's just really, really scary. Thankfully, with my Arcanine Intimidate, I was able to maneuver around I think I got Terra Water off in one game in front of the Palafin and got it burned. I don't remember exactly, but I do remember winning this set. Really close set. Did manage to take it in 2 games though. But once again, as with most of my sets this weekend, it was, I got a couple reads right and I got the turns right and I managed to pull through and get the W. So now we are 7-1. We have officially advanced to day 2 of the competition. However, there is one more round left, and you've got to play it out because the records transfer over from day 1 to day 2. And, well, we pulled Giovanni Costa, and this was just a really, really good set. In game 1, I'm like, you know what? Corv could almost work here. So I brought Corviknight, and I got slaughtered. And I'm not talking like I got slaughtered like, oh, I lost. You know, no. I got absolutely slaughtered by bringing Corviknight in game 1. I'm like, no. Corviknight was cool. It was a cool thought, but no, get it out of here. We'll bring Corviknight later. We'll bring Corviknight later. Made the right adaptation, brought Arcanine into this one. Had the Terra Water Arcanine, was able to get some burns, some pivots around. Managed to take the set in 3. Really, really good set. Gio's a really good player. And did manage to make day 2 as well. So really happy to get that set in. Really fun set. Enjoyed it. Thankfully, I was able to get the win. And super happy with that. So, end of day 1. It's a long one. It was a long day. Just super happy to be 8-1. Seeing a lot of my friends make day 2 as well was super, super hype. In fact, the entire Airbnb that I was staying with, my friend Jesse, Bouchon, and Neil, all 4 of us actually made day 2. So 4 out of 4 of us actually made day 2, which was pretty hype. So pretty cool to see there. A bunch of other friends as well made day 2. Just a good showing by my friend group this time, and it was just super hype, right? When you can feed off of each other, it's super, super fun. Even Marcus Strider again was his 3rd straight day 2, which is absolutely ridiculous. That's just mad consistency, right? Round 10 though, we'll go over to day 2 now. Round 10, we play Ishmael, and this was actually Ishmael's first event, and the Screamtail was terrifying. I had to find a way to get through Screamtail without losing my resources to kill Goldengo and Amoonguss in the back. One of the best sets of the weekend by far, just really position-based, getting through things. Managed to take a really, really close set. It was a 3-game set. Really, really close. Nothing too crazy. They Terra flying their T-Tar all the time. It is their best play into that matchup because I really can't touch flying types. I'm not sure if anybody really noticed that from my team, but I really can't touch them all that well. My hit into a flying type, I'm bringing Bundle, right? And I don't really want to necessarily bring Bundle on lead all the time to get rid of flying types. And into T-Tar, Bundle's not killing AV T-Tar, you know, so I can't really bring it in until the late game. So finding a way to get through the flying type was actually super difficult. Managed to make it happen. Managed to keep my Great Tusk as a strong enough piece for later. What I was doing was I was purposely leading Great Tusk to force the flying off of T-Tar, so that way my Great Tusk could clear the back end of Amoonguss and Goldengo. Really close game. I think if they would have brought Dragonite, it might have gone another way. But I was still bringing Flutter and Bundle, so maybe Dragonite wasn't a great adaptation for them either. So either way, really, really cool set. Really, really fun set. Enjoyed that one, and now I am 9-1. Going into round 11, I play Abdullah, aka Sempra, aka the regional champion. At this time, it's an interesting team, and my lines into this team are a little shaky, as you saw in finals on the stream. If anybody watched that, I'm gonna go briefly here. I went with my standard game plan of the Arcanine stuff. I got slaughtered. There's no secret here. Abdullah absolutely slaughtered me in Swiss. Absolutely got slaughtered 2-0. He made quick work of me and he moved on. That was basically what happened here. So at that point, it was my standard stuff didn't work. My standard lines into this team didn't work. It was over. Just a really cool team from Abdullah's end. Like, once again, it is just a Nails team, but it's just a super solid team, right? Like, the Lilycool on the Flutter Gambit stuff was really cool to see. Something I should have been more ready for, I think, but just wasn't more ready for. Then I played Shreyas. And Shreyas has a Indeedee Armarouge team. And what makes this one a little bit more interesting and makes me so that I can't really pivot out of it as much is Rock Slide on the Iron Hands. Because now that Rock Slide can hit both, it can actually break the sash of my Great Tusk without needing to necessarily and chip something else. Right? So generally, like, sometimes my calcs are like, my Fluttermane can live the Expanding Force from Armarouge, right? But I can't live the Expanding Force plus the Rock Slide. So it really kind of shifted a lot of matchups there. It was a really good set. I think I pivoted super, super well in game one. I unfortunately did get flinched on the last turn of Trick Room, which prevented me from breaking the sash on Fluttermane. And then I was still okay because I was able to get a Snarl off. I was in pace. It was going to be super close to living the Snarl at the end of game one, to living the Shadow Ball, because it came down to Fluttermane versus Arcanine. I Snarled to break the sash. He Shadow Balled. I Snarled to break the sash. I lived the Shadow Ball. I had my Citrus Berry back. It did about 75 to me. And then I got healed back up and I had about, if I remember correctly, I think it was like 66. So after the Snarl, I'm pretty confident I would have lived. I did get crit, so I did lose game one. Game two, I managed to win. Game three, I lost. But it would have been interesting to see what happens if I had taken game one. Because, like, obviously, I took game two, right? So it's very easy to say that, oh my goodness, if I don't get hacked out game one, I probably win the set. But I think that's incorrect. Because if I win game one, we don't know. It's actually impossible to say if Shreyas over there decides to adapt, right? Really cool set. Had fun in the set. Was a little unfortunate in game one, of course, but that's the game I signed up to play, sort of thing. And that's kind of been my new mentality for hacks, right? Obviously, it's frustrating, right? But I signed up to play a game of Pokemon, and it's going to happen at some point throughout the regional, you know? So that's the way I kind of looked at it, you know, like, hey, you know what? It's super annoying. I'm not going to pretend I wasn't frustrated, because I was super frustrated with the hacks, but you kind of have to sit back and just go, okay, hold up a second. I signed up to play Pokemon. Hacks are going to happen at some point throughout the day, so that's where we ended up. It was cool meeting Shreyas, really cool dude. Move on from there. We're going to get Mustafa. And I'm going to be honest with you guys here. We sat down at the table. And I guess we traded team sheets. I don't remember the exact timeline here. And he apologizes for what's about to happen. And like, I looked at the team, and we all know what's about to happen here. And what's about to happen here is Klefki Thunderwave. And I'm gonna be honest, a lot of this set was, am I gonna get fully paralyzed? Yes or no. Let's just say there was a lot of the times I did not move. Somehow did manage to win this one. I think they were a little bit. Like, game one, they kind of sacrificed their Annihilate really, really early. And that allowed me to kind of steamroll the way through it, because I could easily bring Arcanine in the back, not have to worry about the Ape anymore. And Terra Water Arcanine can deal with the Pelipper, the Palafin, and the Klefki, right? So that felt pretty good to me. Game two, they were a lot smarter with their Annihilate, and I got run over by Annihilate, and I lost a lot of my resources to deal with the Palafin and the Pelipper. So I lost game two. Game three, they gave me, once again, the Annihilate pretty quickly, but I got paralyzed quite a bit, and it was really coming down to the wire as to whether or not I was going to get through it. Somehow did manage to win. Iron Bundle got a double protect. The double protect on my Iron Bundle, I wasn't sure if it was going to matter. Like, I don't know if it guaranteed me. Not sure if it was going to give me the win straight up, but it definitely gave me the win after I got it. I'm not sure if it was a loss straight up the other way. It would have been really close the other way. But getting the double protect just cleaned it up. I mean, after getting paralyzed a million times in the set, I feel like I deserved the double protect, or a little bit of luck back in my favor. But once again, game of Pokemon, just a just a game. It was a game of all time. There's nothing else to say too much about that. Thankfully managed to get the win. So now we're playing our winning in. And at this point, it's, oh my goodness, are we going to be able to make this happen? You know? And here we are at the winning in, and I see this. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't want to see this team. Like, they make me pick a lead. You know? It was Terra, Steel, Annihilate, which allowed me to kind of say my safest lead into this is Arcanine, Great Tusk. Because if they go Dozo, I'll still have my Flutter Bundle in the back and can still make things happen. If they go Mousehold Ape, it's a little annoying, but I can at least burn the Ape. Maybe. You know, I can maybe burn the Ape. There's a chance. You know? And then, obviously, the Indeedee Armourouge mode, my Great Tusk Arcanine is meant for that anyways, so we go from there. They ended up bringing Mousehold Ape and Indeedee Armourouge to both games. The interesting part, and the only reason I think I actually was able to win this game, was because my Arcanine and my Great Tusk were both faster than their Mousehold. If their Mousehold would have been faster than either my Arcanine or my Tusk, I probably lose the set, because I don't have the capability or the luxury of killing Mousehold before they beat up the Ape, and it's just game over. Right? All I need to do is stop the Ape from being able to get beat up, and I'm good. Call the Protects on Mousehold now, and I'm good. But the other way, if they would have just been able to beat up their Ape before my attacks go off, the game gets a lot shakier, and I don't think I pull it out. Thankfully, did manage to pull that one off. Got it in 2, which was really, really nice. And then it felt good, and I'm going over there. We're celebrating, and then it was, hold up a second. 1-11-3 is going to miss cut. So it was a lot of waiting around. I was hovering around, you know, you go and find all your other opponents. Hey, how'd you do this round? Did you win? Did you lose? What's going on? You know, you're talking around, just hanging out at this point, right? And thankfully, managed to sneak in 7th place, and now it's time for top 8. Thankfully, I was second stream game in top 8. I somehow managed to dodge the stream the entire way through my run until top 8. So in top 8, they streamed 2 matches. I was the second match of top 8. I immediately started panicking because Zach's team is terrifying. It is the whole, you're going to perish your Tatsugiri stuff, and then you're going to bring in Sylveon, and you're going to psych up. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about these games on the top cut, obviously, because there's more to them, I think. Just because like you guys can actually know what I'm talking about, because like you can cross-reference the games with the stream matches sort of thing. Right? So I'll talk a little bit more in depth here. And the concept in this one was, what am I going to do? Because I have one very minimalistic line that actually works, where basically I lead Iron Bundle Fluttermane, and I say, I click Energy Ball, and my concept is that I need to catch the Dondozo on switch-in with the Energy Ball and the Freeze Dry to kill the Dondozo when it comes in. That way the Sylveon can't come onto the field and psych up. Now, game 1, I didn't get it off. I figured they were going to protect Tatsugiri. They made a good call and said, hey, I'm not going to protect Tatsu this time. It's fine. They made a good call. I lose my bundle turn 1. All of a sudden, on a back foot. Game 2, well, not game 2 quite yet, but I bring in Corviknight. I try to maneuver around a little bit just to see what the rest of the game plan is. I do manage to figure out that my Corviknight's actually faster than the Sylveon. So I was actually able to kill it before it's able to get the Psych off, which kind of made my play earlier on, where I snarled the Dondozo, right? And I feel like that's such a weird play at first glance, but I'm snarling the Dondozo where I could have burned it, right? But I snarled it because I figured Sylveon was going to come in after and get the Psych off. But had I burned the Dondozo and just killed Sylveon when it came in anyways, I would have been fine to win game 1. But I didn't know that at the time. I didn't realize that I was going to be faster than Sylveon and be able to get the kill. So thankfully I was able to get the kill on the Sylveon beforehand. I did lose game 1. I am going to address the end game. Corviknight does not win that end game versus Dondozo, even if we're both at full health in the end. I was simply gathering my thoughts, just taking my time, just figuring out what I wanted to do going into game 2. I was taking the time to think how I adapt in game 2, just recompose myself sort of thing, right? Like obviously I even made a joke in the microphone headset saying about how many viewers we were going to lose on stream, right? Just trying to recompose myself, reset things down, just settle things down in my mind, right? Just reset, figure out what's going on here. Is this still my optimal line, my optimal way to approach it? Once again, just got a couple 50-50s early on in these next games 2 and 3 correct, and just was able to get the game, and like just an absolutely incredible set. Feel super happy with the way I played that one. Able to shut down the Dondozo stuff. You know, just a matchup that I was not looking forward to seeing, that I had to play, that I was somehow managing, that I somehow managed to get out. Super, super big shout out here to Pengi for helping me figure out this line, or I guess fine tune it. Like I had the beginning part of it with the whole flutter bundle stuff already figured out, but Pengi on the day of definitely helped close it out with the Corviknight and the Arcanine suggestions. We figured that one out together. Definitely got to give him credit there, but it's a line, and the line managed to work. Nothing more, nothing less than that. If you're interested in the sets, the stream VODs will be up. I'll probably put them in the link down below. Top 8, top 4, and final sets are all there. Managed to win this one in game 3. Super, super happy with how I played that set. Top 4. Aaron. Now, I feel that my matchup into Aaron is probably in one of the 5... way long ago at the beginning of this video, I said, hey, I have 5% of the time I actually have a good matchup. And I think this is that 5% of the time. I feel very strong with my matchup into Aaron. But the fact of the matter is, it's Aaron. And like, if you guys don't know Aaron Cybertron Zhang, just click the link in the description, guys. I mean, absolutely phenomenal player, guys. There's nothing is scarier than going up against an amazing player with a solid team, right? I felt good. I felt my Corviknight, Arcanine, King Gambit stuff really did its job here. And game 1, I felt strong by leading double steal. And I'm basically saying, Aaron, pick one of us. Pick my King Gambit to burn, or pick my Corviknight to set up on you. And Aaron decided to pick the Corviknight. Corviknight went down. King Gambit went crazy. Then I just, from there, it's a few reads on whether or not he protects Tusk or not. Or if I just kill Talonflame. There's a few reads. They're up in the air. I managed to get them right. Game 1 felt pretty comfortable. Of course, I can't speak on game 2, guys. Game 2 was won on turn 1 after the Will-O-Wisp miss into the crit under Brute Bonnet. It's Pokemon. I felt super bad that I had to win the set that way. It would have been cool. I would have liked to see how that game played out if he gets the burn and I don't get the crit. I think it becomes a whole lot closer of a game. It's tough to say if I lose game 2 or not. It's really tough because it was like all turn 1, right? But like, obviously, like I said, I feel really good into that matchup. But once again, it's Aaron. Just fantastic player. And like, you can't disrespect Aaron here and say that I have the matchup I'm going to win, because Aaron is the type of player to see the matchup and somehow find a way out of that. You know, like, you have to respect Aaron's potential to get out of this. And like, even though I had a really good matchup, I do think Aaron probably gets that burn off. It probably comes super, super close. But the fact that Bundle doesn't have Hydro Pump really just allows my King Gambit to sit there. Really just allows my Corviknight to sit there. And I think the end game allows me to get through that. I'm assuming King Gambit was getting put to sleep if I don't crit the Brute Bonnet. So obviously he's buying himself turns. Tough to say either way, but we did manage to get the win. Obviously, luck on our side. We take those sometimes. It is the game of Pokemon. We signed up to play it, but just super, super happy to be able to pull that one off. And now we're in finals. Of course, at this point, Canadian finals, Canada has successfully defended the regional sort of thing. So either way, we're going to get a Canadian to win the Canadian regional. Super, super happy to see that. But once again, here we are. And I've been asked numerous times my thought process on this matchup, guys. So here it is. Okay, we played in Swiss. So when we played in finals, it was effectively a game 3. So we played in Swiss. Like I said, my normal Arcanine stuff didn't work. What I found happened was that they were there and they were able to just start clicking. They had the option to click Sleep Powder. And I didn't like the fact that they were buying themselves turns. So I wanted to force, like, my concept in leading Fluttermane and sacrificing Fluttermane was because, one, I speed tie their Fluttermane in the endgame anyways, and I don't want to play that endgame. So if by leading Fluttermane, I force them to go after you Eruption, and I can force myself into reads. Obviously got the turn 1 wrong in game 1. If I do call the Protect on Torkoal and double the Lilligant, I actually get the kill on Lilligant there, and I think I actually have a chance at just winning the game. Because, once again, he's Scarf Great Tusk at that point. Like, his endgame is Fluttermane and Scarf Great Tusk. And what I can do is I still have Icy Wind on the table, and I'm in the sun. And since he specs Fluttermane, if he brings in Fluttermane, if I get that turn 1 right, the Torkoal I protected, Lilligant goes down, If I would target of Lilligant, this is, right? I kill Lilligant. Lilligant goes down. If they bring in Fluttermane, it's a simple Icy Wind, Terra Ground, Earthquake, clear the board. And then it's Great Tusk versus Fluttermane and my Great Tusk. Their Great Tusk is Scarf. They have to lock into something, which... Actually, do I lose at that point still? Only if Bundle dies. If Bundle dies to my Earthquake, then I lose at that point. But if Bundle's alive at the end of that turn, I win. But if they would have opted to bring in Great Tusk first, it's a simple Freeze Dry into the Scarf Great Tusk. It dies. King Gambit, I go Headlong Rush into the Torkoal. It's just game over from there. Game 2, I kind of tried a similar thing. And this time I was like, he's not going to protect Torkoal this time. So the goal here is to get Torkoal as low as possible and chip the Lilligant. Once again, just saying I don't need Fluttermane. And it worked perfectly. And my concept now is I have to get the turns where I protect or I don't protect correct. Now, I know it looks like I got absolutely destroyed. But knowing that it's Great Tusk in the back based on information from the previous set that I played him in, I have the ability to say, hey, it's Great Tusk in the back. So all I have to really do is kill the speed control and chip the Torkoal. Because that's all I need to do to win this game. Because they don't... If they lose their Lilligant, which in this case is their speed control, and I have my booster on bundle, I'm actually in a really, really solid position to win the set. This one came down to me misreading a call. I basically had to call whether or not they expect me to Terra my Arcanine and click Moonblast into it, or if they expect me to stay Fire type and click Power Gem into it. I opted to Terra Water. I got a call wrong, but if I get the call right, and I do just click Flare Blitz into Fluttermane there, and I get my Flare Blitz off into Fluttermane, I think I win the game because then Arcanine's on the field once again. It's got a 20% Torkoal and a Great Tusk. Great Tusk will go down to the booster, the Freeze Dry from bundle, and then Flare Blitz goes off. Now, this is assuming it's not like a bulky Great Tusk. I don't believe it was on Nails' team. I don't think it was bulky enough to live a Freeze Dry from an Iron bundle if there was bulk on it. Maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong in that assumption, well, then I probably lose the game anyways, but I believe that I have enough to kill the thing. I'll maybe run a calc because I can go pull up Nails' team as well. So I can potentially run a calc because Abdullah said it was basically Nails' team straight up. So I can go check the calc. I'll leave it somewhere on the screen for you guys. Once again, if I'm wrong in that assumption that I get the kill on Great Tusk, well then Abdullah just absolutely slaps him. But like my point being, Abdullah played insanely well. Absolutely well-deserved regional championship for Abdullah. It sucks to lose in second place when you're that close, but I couldn't be happier with the weekend. I just want to do some quick shoutouts before I wrap this one up. Of course, my friends Charlie, Apple, Olivia couldn't have built this, couldn't have resulted in this exact six without you guys. So thank you all so much. Really do appreciate it. Everybody on Team Canada, I absolutely couldn't be happier being part of Team Canada, just playing for Team Canada this weekend and just hanging out with everybody in Canada. You know, just Team Canada it's one of those teams that I just feel super at home in. You know, just everybody there is amazing. The whole community is great. Love being a part of it. So thank you all so much for just being a part of this journey, supporting me as we go. Of course, thank you to everybody who is reaching out to me on socials and everything that just sent me messages of support. Really means the world to me just to see all that. Like, obviously I didn't see them during the top 8, but I went back and I've read almost, I believe, every single one of them. If I missed one, I apologize. But thank you all so much for the support during Top Cut. It really does mean the world to me. Thank you. Definitely want to talk about the mental game a little bit because there is just so much going on at regionals, right? And it's very easy to lose momentum quickly. So having a strong mental game is super important, and I don't think I'm the type of person to have a strong mental game. I really, like, I'm really improving on it, and I think I have improved on it, hence my recent success at 7-3 at Orlando and now here. But there's still times, you know. So one person I really want to shout out is Devin or Blub VGC. Definitely don't make it this far in the tournament without Devin being there, just supporting me, definitely keeping my head level, picked me up when I was down after dropping from 9-1 to 9-3. Definitely don't make it through day 2 Swiss without that. So Devin, huge shout out there, and everybody else who kept my head up all day. Really do appreciate all of that. Thank you. And of course, one final shout out is Pengy for Top Cut. Just absolutely insane prep. Help me prep out for Aaron. Help me prep for Zach as well. Just thank you for that. Really, really do appreciate that. I don't think I beat Zach without Pengy's input there going into top 8. So just everybody. But once again, guys, there's too many people to shout out. I could sit here for 6 years and probably still be listing people, and I'd probably still forget somebody. But basically, if you talk to me, if you help me, if you had any input on the team, any input on my run, at all, anything, if I talk to you throughout the day, thank you all so much for making Vancouver Regional Championships what it was. With that, if you guys do enjoy the content, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. I do apologize for the super lengthy video, but I did want to go full in depth on this, just kind of talk about the experience and go from there, kind of like a war story sort of thing. Hopefully you guys did enjoy it. I might try to keep things quicker in the future, but once again, I did dice it up in the comment section. There's a bunch of timestamps, so if you're looking at a specific matchup, feel free to do that. But thank you all so much. I'm going to stop rambling now. It's been 55 minutes of nonsense at this point. Thank you all so much. I really do appreciate every single one of you. I will catch you all in a future video.